And staying with politics, the row-ripping Reform apart over a Rupert. Suspended Reform UK MP Rupert Lowe. LBC's political editor Natasha Clark is in the studio with more. Natasha, morning.
Morning, Nick. Yes, of course. Backstabbing, betrayal, blazing rows. It's not an episode of The Traitors. It's actual real life. It is the drama
Nigel
happening
Farage
inside
is
the
Claudia
Reform.
Winkleman. I like that idea.
I think so, completely. And they, of course, have one fewer MP this week after Rupert Lowe was suspended. He was referred to the police, we're told, following this almighty bust-up last week between him and Nigel Farage. Rupert Lowe is the MP for Great Yarmouth. He was elected last year, and it all came about after he gave this interview to the Daily Mail last week. He was quite critical in a very subtle way of Nigel Farage, whether he be an MP or leader come the next election. He said that Reform remained a protest party led by the Messiah. He also said it's too early to know whether Nigel will deliver the goods and become Prime Minister at the next election. So fast forward 24 hours, an extraordinary statement put out by the party themselves. The whip was suspended. Allegations were then made about his staff, about bullying in his office and threatening behaviour towards the chairman, Zia Yusuf. They have reportedly gone to the police. A couple of hours later, Lowe and Farage went into a public slanging match over the weekend on social media and in the Daily Telegraph. Mr Farage has claimed that he and other Reform MPs did our best to keep a lid on a series of internal disagreements with Mr Lowe, but he said that this containment strategy had invariably failed and blamed him for sparking disunity and a barrage of criticism against his leadership. So this has absolutely now exploded onto the airwaves, Nick, including on LBC. And Ben Habib, a former deputy leader of Reform, of the party, told LBC on Saturday it was all because Nigel Farage wants it to be part of his show.
The short answer is that Nigel can't bear anyone being in the limelight. And I'm utterly convinced that when Elon Musk endorsed Rupert Lowe and said that he would make a better leader of Reform than Nigel does, that effectively put a target on Rupert's back, and Nigel was going to get rid of him after that. The longer answer is that Reform UK is a one-man band. It's still controlled by Nigel, even though he says he's democratised and given up control. That's not true. It's still in his control. And that made it impossible for Rupert to really be heard.
And yesterday, older Reform hats like Richard Tice and Gawain Towler, former spokesperson for Reform, were sent out to try and calm the storm. This is him speaking on Sunday with Lewis Goodall yesterday.
There have been rows. There are always rows in politics. Look at Brown-Blair years. Look at various other things. Look at the way the Tories.
Blair and Brown were running a party of over 400 MPs.
You had dozens of people calling for resignations because they are so good, because they're just not committee people, because they're not bland. Do what you're told. Be who you are. I think you can expect a great deal of talent, and talent will dispute. Talent will rub against each other as you grow. These missteps will happen. That's how it happens. Nothing is perfect in this world, and it would be absurd to think it was. I wish this little spat hadn't taken place. Of course I do. In a big party, you can hide differences more easily. They can be ignored. In a small party, obviously, they are much more apparent.
And Richard Tice was forced to deny yesterday that the suspension of Lowe was not at all Putin-esque. And more developments as well this morning, Nick, in the papers. The MP who has been reported, Rupert Lowe, as we've been discussing, was reported, according to the Daily Mail, was reported to be hosting a dinner for potential donors just hours before he was reported to police. And the BBC has also been speaking to the lawyer who has been hired by the Reform Party to look into these allegations. She has denied Rupert Lowe's account of things, saying that is not an accurate representation of what happened. So it's the referee that the party have brought in is now getting involved, saying actually one side is completely wrong. And Nick, why is this important? Look, it's just 2 months until these really crucial local elections. Reform are hoping to gain a lot of seats here. Of course, there are always rows and disagreements about how you organise and what to do. But Nigel Farage, I mean, look, remember that row in the European Parliament, those punch-up between those two UKIP MEPs? Any outlet that Nigel Farage is a part of always seems to descend into utter chaos, into splits. And look, it didn't go so well for the Conservative Party. Once they were merged with that brush of being a chaotic party that could not hold themselves together, they were unable to make any more progress. And I think, Labour and the Tories have been very, very spooked by the rise of Reform. They've been topping some opinion polls, but now they've lost a fifth of their MPs in one go because of the suspension of Rupert Lowe. And I don't think that these splits, these internal divisions, are going to go away anytime soon.
Natasha Clark, LBC's political editor, reporting.